Welcome everybody and thanks for tuning in. This is Dave Blinder. I'm broadcasting from Denville, New Jersey. Our date is within June 2020 and we are in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic right now. We hope everyone is being very safe and healthy and faring well through these turbulent times. A little bit about me. I've been doing photography regularly since about 2007. I started out doing nature photography as a hobby, went on to do just a little bit of wedding photography, that sort of stuff, and since then have branched out to things more like architectural photography, videography, and being a licensed drone operator. Anyways, we're here today to review a nature photography virtual lesson I've put together for everyone, and our theme or lesson today is thinking critically about your photographs. And this one I think is pretty important because you need to take a step backward as an artist and ask yourself, why am I taking these photographs? Am I getting the gratification out of my hobby that I'm seeking? And how can I advance my skills and my passion for photography? So, without further ado, let's advance through my slides I've made for you. So we're going to look at 3 of my nature images today. So this is one of them. I took this probably 3 or 4 years ago. This is at a beautiful nature preserve in South Jersey. This one would be in Wharton State Forest, which is one of the largest in just an immense natural area in South Jersey. It's extremely pristine down there and an incredible experience to withhold. A true natural gem, and I really hope each of you can get out there for a drive or a walk to have these experiences. So obviously this is a landscape image taken with a wide-angle lens on my digital SLR camera. I typically am photographing from a tripod because my purpose of taking the photographs is to print and exhibit them as large as possible. So the tripod always allows me enough time to slow down, and I know that there's not going to be any blurriness in the photograph. I can fine-tune my composition through the viewfinder. I'm not in a rush. It's very, very important you're not rushing as an artist. You want to take time and think about how the viewer is going to perceive your artwork for sure. It's all about the quality. Oopsie, didn't mean to zoom there, bear with me. So on my next screen, I've done a little overlay on this photograph for you. This type of overlay we call the rule of thirds in the art world or in photography. Maybe you've heard of this, maybe you have not. I've just put this temporarily over my image as a little bit of an analytical tool for you. So as an artist, we don't really want to willy-nilly when we take photographs. We want to have a purpose. We want a clean design. We want structure. We need to organize that chaos so we're presenting a very clear picture to our viewers, friends, and family. So this kind of superficial grid overlay helps us get a better look at where things are falling on the screen. So as you can see, the shrubbery, or what we might call understory, is almost precisely at that lower third of the frame to create some balance. And just looking at a few more of our guidelines, the sun is nearly center of the top third of the photograph too, creating some visual interest there. And obviously when I took the picture, I also took the time to frame out the trees so they're not overlapping too much. And you can see this pretty prominent tree on the right side is nearly parallel, though bent, to the rightmost third of the photograph. So again, you want a structure, is you're looking for geometry and symmetry when you're taking these photographs. And I know you're not going to be out there walking with a grid or anything like that, but you can always have that imaginary grid in the back of your mind, and that's going to lead to much stronger artwork. So I always recommend thinking about the structure while you're taking the picture. After a while, this becomes intuitive, this process. Once you're aware of it. This is an age-old technique, really started around the Renaissance era of painting, or before then they had a similar guideline that was called the golden ratio, and there's some great books and articles on that if you Google golden ratio. Anyways, let's keep moving here. So my part of my creative process is after I've taken a photograph, I've gotten home, looked at it, if I'm going to present it digitally or print, I do think it's important to title the actual piece. And for this one, I called it Morning Sun in the Pinelands. My titling is not really abstract. I want it to be pretty concise, but depict the scene as well. So that really was, for me, kind of the meaning of the photograph, and that's a title that hits home for me. I wanted to encapsulate the beauty of the area for the title, as well as talk about what's in the frame. Obviously, I intentionally photographed the sun, so I want to mention that in the title. This is a photograph about it's a photograph about sunlight. If I had taken this photograph at midday or pitch black at night, it may not have been successful in my mind. So again, the title is reflective of my intentions for this photograph. So we'll keep on trucking along here. Bear with me. The next step I wanted to go over, sorry if I'm getting a little wordy, is I think an important part of that for both creative and analytical process for an artist is to try to make even a single sentence that really summarizes the intent of the photograph as well as the subject. And I read this before. I didn't make up this theory that if a photograph, image, or artwork can't be described in a sentence, that the viewer may not understand it properly. So going through these exercises on your own artwork, I think can really help you have more effective photographs, help you to understand what your goals may be, and maybe you can understand why some of your images have been more successful than others in the past. So it'd be great if you could take the time to ask this question of your own artwork, or just look at other artwork. Look at photographs you see on the internet or National Geographic, or think of artwork you have even seen in museum paintings and ask that question. This is a great exercise for becoming an art critic. So, sorry about that, just got to keep advancing. So my answer to that question of a single sentence about my photograph is, an answer could be, this is a landscape image showcasing the warmth of morning light bursting through the trees in a pristine forest. So again, not too wordy, but that is exactly what I was trying to capture in the frame. The morning light in sun is featured prominently in the image. It's an image of a forest, obviously. Forests are very, very calming to us. They're peaceful areas. There's beautiful sights and smells out there to enjoy. So my goal of the photograph was to share that experience with you, and hopefully that's been successful. So we'll continue on to our next slide here. So this is what you might call a macro photograph. This is a very, very small butterfly. People might mistake them for moths, but they are not. This is a woodland butterfly that you will often see on forest floors or on puddles or stuff like that. You won't often find this on flowers in your garden, but still a pretty common butterfly in most of New Jersey. So I have overlaid my rule of thirds grid here, just superficially again, so you can get a sense of the layout. And I don't need to go over all of it for you, but you can see that some important aspects of this photograph are certainly aligned well to that rule of thirds grid. Again, we need to create structure in our nature artwork. We don't want to have a whole lot of chaotic stuff. We don't want unintentional items kind of cut off on the perimeter of our frame. That would look sloppy or accidental. So this is all about taking your time and being concise when you're pressing the button on your camera. Or this translates to many other forms of visual artwork as well. So advancing onward. So here we have my short descriptive title of it. There's often not a lot of imagination involved in the titling, and that's intentional. So kind of a crazy name, Little Wood Satyr in Afternoon Light. So whoever names butterflies, these people maybe in the 1700s, 1800s were very, very creative. So that is the name of this butterfly. I didn't make it up, Little Wood Satyr. And obviously this image is about the warmth of a woodland floor. That's the purpose of it. We have that nice warm light kind of shining through the butterfly's wing, and that's the reason I took the photograph. We've got some intricate patterning on the butterfly itself, and then we've got some soft woodland details as well that kind of melt away in the background as part of the experience as well. And intentionally, it's a bright and warm photograph in afternoon light, and I think a lot of us just enjoy that experience of being outdoors. So this is the purpose of this photograph, is to convey that experience. So our next step in thinking analytically, how can the artist best describe this artwork in a single cohesive sentence? And my answer could be, this is a nature image of a woodland butterfly resting on the forest floor in warm afternoon sunlight. So again, it's very, very simple, my sentence. For me, that seems true. Maybe there's some alternate wording you might want to use there, and I'd be interested to hear how you might title these my own images as well. So please email me or direct message me any suggestions you have or what comes to mind. I'd love to hear how you interpret my artwork as well. Keep moving along here. So we're back to another landscape image I took. This was probably taken about 4 or 5 years ago, in my best recollection. So another photograph from my digital SLR camera. The camera is on top of a tripod here. Again, I want to go for concise positioning. I don't crop my photographs very much after I take them. I don't want to straighten them or guess that the horizon is level, because that might look sloppy. The light starts getting a little dimmer towards the end of the day, so I didn't want any camera shake from my hand showing or anything like that in the photograph. So for me, the process is just so enjoyable of creating artwork and sharing with everyone, and that's why I enjoy the tripod. It gives me time to think about what I'm doing out there. That's my experience anyways. So this nature image was taken in Essex County, New Jersey, a really beautiful area. This is called Hilltop Reservation. The county of Essex has put a lot of time and money into their park system. This is a very popular place and a very peaceful place. It is formerly a hospital of sorts, the ground, so you have a little bit of a paved walkway around this natural area. So you'll see people out there pushing strollers, jogging. This area, Hilltop Reservation, is accessed above Verona, Cedar Grove, those types of towns, and if you need directions to how to get out there, I'm happy to share that with you as well. So you can see my superimposed and superficial rule of thirds grid to give you a sense of where the elements are lying within the frame, and you can take a minute to soak that in. So we've got that foreground mulch trail that is pretty close to the center, and then it kind of meanders off towards that center left rule of thirds grid there. So leading lines in an image like a trail often are where your eye will first look when you originally look at an image, and then your eye has a tendency to kind of shift around the frame. Then you might take in the clouds or the mid-ground trees, return to the foreground. That's kind of the order of operations of viewing, but we probably all see our work a little bit differently when we look at it. So, very simple name, not a whole lot of imagination here, easy one for me to come up with. Last Light on Hilltop Reservation, and if you look in the frame, you'll see this is just the very, very last sunlight striking the meadow before dusk. So, the color of sunlight at the very end of the day could sometimes be an orange tone or even a little bit of pink, which you'll see in the clouds here. So that's what I wanted to capture in the frame, and for me, the feeling I often have at those times of last light are a feeling of peace. So that was one of my goals with this image. So we'll move on to our question of how could we best describe this artwork in a single cohesive sentence, and I could give you a couple of seconds to think about that. Let me know how you might title this type of artwork. What do you think this photograph is about? What's going on here? What are the lines? What are the colors? What's the depiction? What's the area? So my answer could be, this is a landscape image of a local nature preserve utilizing the warm palette of late day sunlight across a meadow. Again, it's very important to think in terms of light in moods and emotions as a visual artist. So the sunlight more often than not really creates the mood, the tone, the strength. The elements of nature are very, very strong, and they often resonate with us as emotions. So that orangey tone is warming to us. It's often very inviting. It could be comforting. Like I said, it kind of creates a feeling of peace at times. So that's the purpose of this. And with that, the foreground, you can see that looks like a very leisurely trail to walk across. So this represents a peaceful and calming expedition out into a little local nature preserve, and that's the purpose of the image. Let's see what else I got there. So I'm sorry if I got a little bit wordy, but hopefully you guys found my commentary interesting, and I enjoy doing this type of stuff for you. So thanks again for tuning in. You can get in touch with me on most social media channels and networks. I'm on Facebook at Dave Blinder Photography. You can access me on Instagram at Dave Blinder. I've included my direct email address for you as well. That's dave@daveblinder.com. And if you have any questions or feedback on my photographs, or just want to talk about photography in general, or if you have any questions on the nature areas that I've visited recently, please let me know. So I want to thank you guys again for tuning in. Hope to do some more lessons for you very soon. Thanks a lot, guys.